And we have one that is often forgotten in these conditions is the Manual of the Planes, 4th edition Manual of the Planes. It's kind of interesting. This one, it's an often overlooked book, and I think it's one of the better ones when it comes to 4th edition. Yes. Yep, it's one of the better ones because they changed cosmology a lot in 4th edition.
Oh.
And I dig some of the cosmology in here. So it's an interesting one to look at.
Cool. And Alan will be on whenever he can be on.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Good. Kicking off another week. Hey, 491 fam, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sound check, sound check. Sounds good. Awesome. I like that check mark. That's the way to do it. Verification.
Yep. Whew.
All right. Good here, just looking around, making sure everything's okay. Rock and roll. Well tonight, Mike, hopefully you're bouncing back there. So I'm assuming you didn't work today, right?
Yeah, not working tomorrow either.
That's good.
Oh, good.
Hey man, you got it. Good idea. Do not blame you there at all. You guys tend to monitor. Discord here and there, right? Just in case Alan's like Discording and not like, hey, oh, I never gave him.
Okay.
Someone
I keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Someone put the. Wait a minute. I guess I can do it here. I'll put it right here.
I can put it. Okay, you put it in.
Yeah, I'm right
I
here.
can copy it. Okay, good. Yep.
I'm typing in the number manually, so there we go.
We can post the link there, so
Yep,
if you
good,
want to have
awesome.
a link.
Thank you very much. Better off doing that.
Yep. In case he wants to go the browser way, so to speak.
Putting together a nice cast for Monday night, since there's no Gabbin on the Super Bowl. My wife would kill me. Plus, I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that.
Oh, there will be Gabbin. But it'll be about
yeah,
the
but-
Super Bowl.
Not about Greyhawk, but D&D.
Yep. So, if everyone out there's doing well, that's enough shout outs. Thanks, Mike. What's up, Tino? What's up, Curtis? What's going on? Here, I'll do Troll Lords for about 30. He says he's gonna have a new ad to me by Friday. All right, we will see.
Yeah.
We will see.
It's starting to get a little bit long in the tooth, this one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So I'm only gonna play it for half.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna get another. Yeah, it's February. I just haven't had time to change it out myself into something old, or I guess I can play Starship Warden again. That would be cool. That was always a good one. I do have that. So. All right. Your team, Tina. What do you mean by your team? They'll be there watching? Is that what you meant? Hey, what's up, everyone? Oh, I needed that coffee tonight. Buzz. Well, hey, Michael Irvin's there too, so there you go, Tino. You're all set. Right? I forget which one I haven't run yet. Here, I don't think I've run this yet. Oh, is this new? Oh, did I do the new one? I did. You want to watch a mystical, magical change out? Watch this. Watch this. This is going to be like awesome. I'm going to do that, and I got a brand new one, and I forgot to change it. Duh. But I'm doing it as quickly as possible. Here we go. Let's see if this works on the fly. It does. Yes. Look at that. Woohoo! There we go. Gotta remember to change it downstairs tomorrow too. Same music. Yeah, it'll be a real good game. I agree. Absolutely. I did it. I did that quick swap. Alright. Here we go. What button next? This one. We're on a couple minutes early, it's fine. Another week. Tonight, an interesting interesting topic. We do have a special guest coming on, everyone. Probably in the second hour. So, that'll be a good thing. Extra-planar influences in Greyhawk. Just when you thought it was safe to go outside. Oh, Fuzz, I just want a win. That's all I want. I want a win. I want a victory. I'll take that. EPI. Tim, what is an EPI? I don't know what that is. What's an EPI? Extra-planar influence? Is that what that is? EPI stands for?
Probably. Yep.
Okay.
I guess so.
Greyhawk, they do. Extra-planar info. There's lots of good books out there. So, hey, it's all good. I don't expect everyone to like follow lock and step with me. I mean, look, you know, you got Curtis as a 49ers fan, Tino as a Cowboy fan. I respect that. It's your home team, man. Some reason Mike's a Colts fan. They did win a Super Bowl, so twice. Everyone forgets the Johnny Unitas Super Bowl. But they did lose to the Jets. I don't know how that ever happened. They were like favored by like 18 points that game or something. And let's be honest, Joe Namath is the worst Super Bowl winning quarterback of all time. He threw 40 more interceptions and touchdowns in his career. 40. Well, I don't even know how that's possible. Well, nowadays it wouldn't be possible. So I'm gonna start up the giveaway right now, so don't forget everyone. That's gonna be some classic D&D reprints. Starting that up. Yeah, rip it too. So you get the idea. All right, let me just go down here and grab these, and then I'll start things up here.
A blue box.
A blue box. That's
Hello,
good timing.
Welcome. Yep.
Good timing. I'll re-hit up that rating. Good to see you, John. Glad you had a great stream with Bill, and you only busted my balls so much, as a South Jersey and Philly people would say. But good to see you all. Good
Hello,
evening.
Justinius. Yep.
With I'm J.K. Lurkazumba. With me, the glutton of punishment for the last hour on John's channel, which is okay. No, I'm just kidding. And with me is Greyhawk Mike Bridges and Anna B. Meyer, and we do have a special
Hello.
guest.
Yep.
More than likely coming in the second hour to talk extra-planar influences of Greyhawk, which will be a great show. But first, let's take a look at this. So, and I did this up for a specific reason, because I rarely do pictures on my ads, but what a cast we got here. So here's Puppets and then some. All right.
Wow.
Here's our cast. We got Ed Greenwood, Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, Darling Creepshow, Steven Chenault, Little Bones for the fundraiser Saturday night, February 18th, 6 p.m. And that is a takeoff of this award-winning. If you get a Pulitzer Prize from D&D Adventures, this would get it. No, I'm just kidding. No, Puppets, there you go, and taking it to the next level. Hence, and then some. Some of you get the joke. Some of you are not old enough to get the joke. A quick story. And I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad here, but I had Todd Stashwick in this game for 4 hours. A couple of days ago, he said, I'm in. And then I sent him the banner, and I sent out the banner to everyone, right, Anna? He said, oh, my God, I thought it was this Saturday. Oh, so Todd couldn't make it because he can't do next Saturday. Yeah, that's okay. I said that will get you next time, Todd. But what a great cast we have here, too. Plus, Bill's going to play as well, play a character. He'll be at the table. Tim's going to be in there helping me. So that'll be...
Awesome setup.
It's going to be a great group. And then for all of you, no Gabbin Sunday night because of the Super Bowl. The Gabbin Prelude show for the fundraiser is Monday night, the day after the Super Bowl. The Eagles win. Monday night at 7:00. These are confirmed people. John Blue Box. I didn't shout him out. John at Blue Box, Darling Creepshow, the people from Greyhawk Reborn, Wiley Hobbit, Jimmy Duffy Prayers Rejects, Rob Phantom, We'll see if a couple other people can sneak. I think John from Phoenix, he's going to sneak in because he's actually sneaking for 5 minutes. And we have a couple other people and some other special guests floating in, but that'll be the prayer. I'll go over all the giveaways. I'll go over all what everyone's doing. Like this great. Here's just an example. Here's Infinite Dimensions of $100 off of their store gift certificate, for example. Oh yeah. The sponsors have stepped up this year.
Mm-hmm.
I try. We're going to have some fun. It's all about having fun and enjoying the community. We're all part of this great community, so I really appreciate it. All right. So I missed a book. We all missed a book. How? And it just came to my mind 10 seconds ago. What book are we missing? From 1980. We're missing one. The biggest one of all time.
From 1980.
Drawing a blank.
All right, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
We're missing a book that is. Oh, of course, it went over there. You got to be kidding me! It loaded on the wrong screen.
D&D. Bloodwild was on it. Yeah. Deities and Demigods.
The original Deities. How can we forget the Deities and Demigods book?
Yeah,
I mean,
for me, it's a secondary book, and later on, I think I want to explain a little bit why, so to speak.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you my little way back. It's got to be 1983.
Yeah.
Bill's definitely not playing. Tom's not playing, but Walt, Alan, and Marco and Tim are. I used Despater a lot back then as the evil antithesis of the
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to go with Asmodeus because I was like, that's too obvious. So I went with Despater, and I think I did that because he hit one of his sidekicks in the one that looks like a satyr was my brain shut off. Was his servant, right? I forget what the name of he was.
It's something like Titivolus.
Titivolus, that's it. Yeah, Titivolus. Yeah, thank you. Great, good job there. Where did I went right by him, didn't I? Well, they're not in here. They're Monster Manual. Oh my God, my brain shut off. My brain's going cranky, crazy. But yeah, so Titivolus and Despater we used. Matt Garash was kind of with, working with them. But that was the Monty Hall days, right? Of high-level adventuring, 20th level characters running around. And I have not had you can, Bill, Tim, correct me, but like in a direct fight, I haven't had a deity in 30 years. So they're more on the cloven hooves. Yes. Goat legs. That was Titivolus. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Is that, hey, Taryn, is that a correct statement? We haven't really gone there. Now we've had influence, and that's where I like to, I think that's what we're going to talk about tonight, but we really haven't had, I think so too, Tim. I said, I don't want to do that again. So Anna, what are your thoughts on this? And then Mike, what are yours?
Mike, you came up with the topic.
Please go first. A great one too.
Before I ruin, it's
okay.
Awesome.
So the World of Greyhawk has a lot of outside influences, extra-planar. I would say heavy on the elemental planes, so inner planes, outer planes, and then some. You name it. There's Greyhawk is being influenced from all quarters, and when you just look at the totality of it, it's amazing how few areas there are that doesn't have some kind of extra-planar, fingerprints on it. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, and you just brought up something I didn't even think about. Elementals. The elemental planes was not even used back then, really, and it didn't get used till Monster Manual 2 came out, and Fiend Foley when they started bringing out this stuff, great point. Go ahead there, Anna.
Yeah, I'm going to say I see it from two perspectives. One, you have to see it from a mechanical kind of game perspective, how the D&D has evolved. Because if you look at Greyhawk like late 70s, early 80s. There wasn't that much because you had a few spells and it was not really detailed much. It was just part of the story. But if you look at the stories of even the earliest adventures, almost every one of them have it built into the fabric, so to speak. Almost all, half of all the villains and stuff have some sort of extra-planar kind of influence. They are demons, devils, cult leaders of all sorts, but it wasn't mechanically recognized in the early editions much, except for a few spells like the gate spell. There was some summonings maybe, and of course the elemental, but the elementals were not seen as extra-planar in the early edition. In the earliest edition, they were extra-planar kind of, but it was not mechanically recognized until Manual of the Plane came out. That was the first time someone took like a cohesive, rules-wise look at how all this kind of goes together, so to speak. And that kind of raised
it's
the
like
bar.
where does Earth,
Mm-hmm.
the Earth of your planet start or end,
Yeah.
and the elemental plane of Earth begin?
Yeah, I see it a bit like D&D physics. It's part of everyday life. It's like gravity and radiation from outer space and all sorts of things that intersect with life and the environment in our real world. But in extra-planar, in the way I see it, and mechanics become more and more of that. That's just part of basic D&D. It's so many things, and it also intersects with the setting in a lot of interesting ways. We have the kind of the most obvious thing about it, the gods and the faiths and the religions, meaning they bring in extra-planar influence because their deities live on, some of them in some plane, and some other deities live on some other plane, and some deities even live on prime material plane, but they are kind of bringing. So it's kind of, there you have one dimension of extra-planar, but then you have all sorts of other things that doesn't really you think of immediately. One is high-level spell casting, and you have the ones that are kind of clear-cut elemental, but then you have a lot of them that are or like elemental that is not clear-cut, but they still cut into the elemental. I have a little bit of an internet hiccup here, so I hope you can hear.
Yeah, you're fine so far.
Okay, perfect.
You're
yeah,
fine.
Yeah, you're good.
And then we have things that we normally don't think of as extra-planar, but they get introduced later in the game, and that's things like the Feywild and shadow magic and shadow influence and stuff like that. That on a more generic or general level, meaning you can have whole forests that are slightly enchanted in some ways, and things like that. And then you have things like weather and stuff that can affect. From meaning someone summons a demon and bury him in the desert, and everything gets hotter and drier and stuff for a millennia and things like that. So it's from many different dimensions, and it all kind of just adds to the environment, so to speak. So it's kind of just part of the general environment, in my opinion, and in my campaign especially, it's just part of the fabric of the setting, so to speak. And it has evolved over the editions mechanically too.
That was the wrong button. I got that over quick. So it moves the CM, H&M modules were above 20. Yeah, so high level adventuring is tough. Mm-hmm. And a lot of ways to do that is you bring in and these things are equivalent of, some of these are equivalent of lesser gods, right? Mm-hmm. Like Asmodeus, Demogorgon. They're equivalent of lesser gods.
I would have them equivalent to major gods in my campaign. They are. Asmodeus is one of the biggest players. He's in my campaign. He's even above a lot of the major gods, because a lot of the major gods, they live under him and they serve under him, like Tiamat and others. So I have him as he's a major god. He's so high up that he doesn't really bothers with having worshippers. He is the one that orders the gods to do things. So yeah, and the demon lords and stuff, they are kind of super gods in some ways. But that's just the way I've handled it. You can handle gods in very many different ways, depending on what style of campaign you want to run.
If they have cults, then they're worshipped, and that makes them semi-gods.
I'm going to ask a really dumb question. Maybe it's not dumb.
I don't think
officially.
Yeah.
Are all the whatever you call them, demons and devils from the early books, the first edition books, are they all considered published source Greyhawk? We know Grazitz's, we know, a couple of them that appear in certain specific modules are Pazuzu, but are all of them? I don't know.
I was going to say it's borderline. Some of them are like Grast, for instance. He
Right.
clearly is, and then you have some that Gary used in the Gord books that are on in Grast's in his the court and he rules them and runs them, and they are his henchmen. So by association, I guess they are introduced and used that way too, because it's Gary's invention, so to speak. In Artifact of Evil, then Grast Court, and you have the Kustichi and several others that are in that universe and mentioned. And Orcus is also mentioned I think in the Gord books as well, because I think they use him as a curse word or something like that. So he is mentioned, but he doesn't really. Well, and we have the Death Knights and stuff. There you have Orcus written in, and Demogorgon.
Demogorgon.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So those are mentioned. Yeah.
Trivia question
Mm-hmm.
for everyone with influence and appearance. What adventure does Balzabul appear in?
I can answer half of it, so to speak. Meaning, I know he was imprisoned in the Greyhawk or in the Greyhawk Castle of Greyhawk, but I forgot which adventure that was established.
Our old friend, he appears in L3.
Oh, that too! Wow.
Leonard Kafka's Deep Dwarven Delve, right?
Oh, hang on a second. No, that was Fras Urbulu. That was in the Castle of Greyhawk, not Balzabul.
Yes, Balzabul.
Yeah.
So Leonard was using them back then.
Yeah.
So and we had like a lot of these early first edition, and that was a 25th anniversary. So that didn't come out till 90 whatever. 99 that one came out, but but early on we had some appearances of in adventures, and everyone remembers Temple of Elemental Evil because you have basically, and you have St. Cuthbert, and Ayers doesn't count because Ayers is of the prime material plane, so Ayers doesn't count in that.
Yeah, we covered him last week.
Yeah, we covered him last week. So, but Zugtamoy is a demoness.
Yeah.
So, and you get the chance to banish her, and that is a spot where you actually get to combat her if you do that adventure right.
Yeah.
But there aren't a lot of appearances. Now, we're not talking Planescape. We're not talking any of that in Greyhawk. I can't think of many. She is gross, isn't she, Tim? I can't think of many where that's part of the main plot line. Now, there may be some others where things like Slod are involved, which are extra-planar too. So, how do you want to handle this, Mike? Anna, you guys want to talk about like some theories, or
pick out
little
particular things?
Pick out some little tidbits.
You brought up Zugtamoy.
Yeah, Zugtamoy. All right, I'll start it off because once Alan's on, I'm just going to sit back and listen. Oh, I gave it away. The Grow Dog, Alan Grow, he's supposed to be coming on in an hour. All right, so Zugtamoy appears twice for me. Okay? Twice. Temple of Elemental Evil, you get her banished. And then there's a whole plot line. Now, this is a tricky one. There's a whole plot line where she's involved, and I'm so happy she's involved, but I converted it. I'm going to be honest.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Tony Winslow Brill wrote Xanthoria, Candlekeep Mysteries. The 16th and final adventure is all Zugtamoy based, right? So, and I was so happy when I read that adventure. I was like, this is freaking awesome. It fits perfectly into my campaign. So, and it's Zugtamoy. It's the same deity that was, from Temple of Elemental Evil. And we ran that super high level. It's the highest level adventure I've run up to and including up to next Thursday. And we'll talk about that. At the end
well,
of the
if you're into adaptations, she's also in Out of the Abyss.
Out of the Abyss. There you go. Very cool. What is that fifth? Is that a 5th edition book?
Yeah.
5. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Tharizdun's not Tharizdun is a god, right, Tim? Tharizdun's not a demon or devil or a plane, right? So we're gonna. Tharizdun is like Heronius, right, on the other end. So, yeah.
So the
yeah.
extra-planar influence, yeah, all the gods are from other planes. They all influence their worshippers. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to look at like the second tier stuff, like
Yes.
demon princes down.
Elementals too. I forgot the elemental. We've done a lot.
And then
with
there's the princes. Yeah.
All right. So, Mike, go for it. Bring something up here.
Well, I had to also throw out that so Zuckmoy also is an influence on Ayu's.
Yeah.
In that she is aligned with him. She is most likely the one who's like got his soul object. I'm speculating. I don't know if that's in canon or not. But her and Ayu's connection gives her a huge influence. So even if you only use Temple of Elemental Evil, that's pretty big for what could be a one-off.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Bad guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Now the other one I wanted to quickly bring up is Demogorgon. I think Demogorgon has a lot of Greyhawk influence. People were talking about Death Knights in the chat. Yeah, just think about how creating a dozen plus Death Knights has totally wrecked the Great Kingdom, right?
Mhm.
And then if you subscribe to the Paizo era, he also started the Savage Tide, which could have implications. That's just two things that's related to Demogorgon.
Yeah.
So I think the Death Knight one's pretty important because since they're effectively immortal, it's a problem that keeps on persisting.
Can we ask this question a little deeper on the Death Knights, because I love the Death Knights so much? Why Demogorgon? I would always thought.
Yeah.
I would always thought Orcus was the way to. But then again.
Yeah, Orcus makes more sense. Right.
It's one line in the Free Folio, right?
Yeah.
Saying they're created by Demogorgon, and then it goes from there. So go ahead, Anna.
I have the way I've retconned it into my campaign is that a lot of these demon lords were part of old Flan lore, so to speak. They were the evil overgods they used to fight each other and others. That's where their cults come from, so to speak. They old Flan. So I have it that the Death Knights were done. That was a work of Horn Society and the Dark Faith that are the custodians of they are the modern version of the old Flan cults from back in the day. And Demogorgon was the one they used his power to seduce the top knights of the temple of the knights protectors of the Great Kingdom in order to turn the best warriors that defends the Great Kingdom into its worst enemies as a curse, so to speak. So they persuaded Demogorgon to do it, and he apparently liked it, so to speak. And so that's my take on using that was old Flan warfare against the new enemies, so to speak. That was why it happened and why they seduced and who used it. And I'm not 100% sure if I will actually go with Demogorgon, but it worked. And I want to add another one into when we talk about the Death Knights. There was a huge abyssal kind of snaky, horrible thing that went through parts of Great Kingdom some hundreds of years earlier. That was an abyss. I think it's called the Abyssal Maw, and it was like some gigantic abyssal monster. And I tie that into that was the first attempt to just basically take something from the abyss and go in and crush Roxy's and the Great Kingdom physically, and that didn't work because the Knights Protectors they actually killed it and slain it, and that's why the next attack was precisely targeted at the Knights Protectors, like what is it, some hundreds of years later. So tie it in. So it was part of that power struggle when the Great Kingdom and Erdi was introduced into the setting, and they established themselves and started going after the Flan systematically, both by warfare, culturally, and so on and so forth. They started a resistance movement. And
thanks, Patrick.
And so that was my kind of how I retconned what happened, so to speak. And
All right, cool.
That's one way I've dealt with it, so to speak, to explain what happened, so to speak. So I don't want to change what actually happens. I just want to add a fabric of why it happened, so to speak, so I can use that to build other campaigns and happenings and stuff related to it.
See, I know a lot of stuff has a beginning somewhere with one line, one word, and then it's
Yeah.
got to be developed after the fact.
Mhm.
And I think that's what happened with it, because someone
Yeah.
just put that on, and it was a
Mhm.
UK, right? It was a Fiend
Yeah.
Folio. So someone put down
Mhm.
Demogorgon
Well,
instead of
exactly, and
Orcus.
yeah, and now we have to live with it, so to speak.
Yeah,
But I
yeah, which is
I
okay.
have, yeah, I have a lot of these demon lords that we know about were cult leaders. They had cults in the old flandom, so to speak. But we have another interesting aspect of planar influence in Greyhawk that is written in, I forgot where, but I think it's from the 83 box set, or maybe it's from the Fine Folio set, when they talk about the deity's influence on the setting, that there seems to be an agreement that gods can or should not directly interfere, meaning they should not come down and wreak havoc
That's probably
and kill
more
things.
from the ashes, Anna.
Okay, yeah,
Because in the 83 box set, the gods are very much walking the earth.
Yeah, and with the exception of Cuthbert and since I use is there personally or something like that, and I always found that kind of weird that the gods that hate each other and are that they can sit down and have an agreement and then follow it and be the most chaotic ones ever. That didn't fly with me, but it's an interesting one that is written in somewhere in order to solve the problem of why do you have these critters that can go in and affect things, don't do it, so to speak, and these powers that have all the power or a lot of power, why they don't just go in and wreck things or kill the other side's high priests or whatever it is, so to speak. So it was and I appreciate the effort, but I want to solve it a little bit differently. But I really appreciate the effort of someone thinking about that and trying to mitigate it or explain it somehow.
The whole deities can't
Oh,
influence
Fuzz, thank you.
on Earth is another, I guess, argument in the case that demon princes and archdevils are not gods, because they seem to be all over the place, right?
Well,
I don't know.
That's it's a discussion point that, like, it's a yes or no, maybe maybe that's the case.
Maybe.
But I think that they just said, as far as game mechanics go, they have to give it an equivalence, and I think that's what they did, right? So
they always been ambiguous rules wise or story wise on that. I run them as gods. They're just part of gods. Some of them are high up and some of them are lower, and the gods are just in there.
What if you want the gods to fight gods?
Oh.
Then
that's what you have the outer planes for. That's where they can do it. Literally fight each other and,
Thanks,
and
Uncle Fuzz.
recruit their
It's and a lot of campaigns go that high level route, and there's nothing wrong with that if you enjoy it. But man, I don't want to get there with gods fighting gods.
No, but they can fight each other, but they don't do it directly. They fight by proxy, because they have. That's why they establish religions. In my take, that's why they establish religions because it's literally what gives them power. And so when critters either worship them or hate them or fear them, that's when they get their power from. And that means that they need to recruit their kind of emissaries or their agents, meaning the clerics or their evil whatever, something. If they have like a pact with someone, they can have like some sorcerer or something, or warlock or whatever, depending on. And this is also something that later editions had way more versions of various things that worshipped or used magic or influenced from various deities. In the beginning, we only have the cleric and paladins, and then there's way others that also uses the magic and whatever, warlocks and various wizards and all sorts of stuff. But the beings up there, so to speak, instead of going down there and fighting themselves, they recruit mere mortals in the thousands and the millions to do the fighting for them, so to speak, and to go out and either tell others that
Yeah.
worship
that's
me
the plan.
and you will
Class.
be whatever wealthy and stuff like more like religions in the real world do. But then you can have others like evil deities and demon lords and stuff that simply recruit others to just go out and murder and cause mayhem and stuff like that. So I don't see the gods fighting themselves personally, but they use various forms of by proxy, so to speak. They recruit and dominate maybe whole countries and whole parts of it, like the deviltry that befouled the great kingdom. I see it as a perfect example of they bring down, they want to use an empire and to get influence, and then it kind of backfires spectacularly. So I see, but that is just one way of looking at it. You can just look at these things
I
as
always have
just
background noise. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
it's at
no,
Mike's
it's
house.
no worries. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But you can also look at it like these
it's all good.
critters are just out to cause mayhem, and if you mess with them, you all going to suffer, so to speak. So if you just want them as weird, strange, horrible things that you should not deal with, that's up to your campaign style, what way you want to deal with them.
So Glassjaw's made up a great point, and that is
Yeah.
that I like this, and I do this. Demons don't need worshippers; they get their power from somewhere else. Because not every demon is worshipped in Greyhawk in the prime material.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's a good point. And I have Asmodeus that I explained earlier. He's one, meaning he has all the other lesser devils. They give him power because he's the one ruling them, so he gets the power from simply hosting them, and they fear him, and he controls them. So that's where you get it from. So by proxy, and you can have it by fear. I have that Nerul doesn't have any real worshippers. People are just terrified of him, and they want to stay out of his way. And so but I think everyone who DM who wants to run a long-term deep campaign need to figure out how they want the world to work, so to speak, because there are many different ways you can organize this that can make sense depending on what kind of stories you want to make and tell, and what kind of style of play you want to run.
So, where have you seen? And let's just go maybe early editions first. Books. We can talk about some of the things that are in the great books. Where have you seen influence, whether it's in published source or in your game you've done? We can use examples of Gore novels or whatever, where we've had extra-planar influence. By the way, yes, I injured myself somehow in my car, so who knows how I did that. So, yep. Thank you. Thank you very much. It looks like a new name here, and fairly new. Kibby Serto. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Mike, you want to take that up? Some influence examples.
An example, okay.
Yeah, a couple, or just one, or
So, in the broadest terms, what we were talking about earlier with the demons and devils, there's a meta plot of the Blood War.
Okay.
And it's definitely something that's on Mordenkainen's mind. It's probably the whole reason why they're on Earth so much, trying to influence things, sending demons and devils to either kill people or, corrupt them. And it's for their planar war against each other.
is that the blood war between the hobgoblins and orcs and the bit?
No. This is the metaphysical.
Okay.
This is second edition.
Okay.
Demons versus devils, Blood War.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Okay.
So it spills over into
described a lot in
Greyhawk.
this book, and it's described in I think in this book a little bit too.
But it's
So
not in the
of-
first edition stuff. It's not.
and
No.
Okay.
This maybe a Planescape.
Okay.
yeah, and it's sorry, go on.
No, that's great. Because I never heard that with Mordenkainen.
Oh,
Yeah, there's some quotes about it, like he's researched into it.
And it troubles him.
Well, anyhow, as we know, he's got a little out of control with the demons, right?
Yeah, true.
So that precipitated a crook of real row quest to banish them. So, again, it's usually these high. Excuse me, guys.
It's okay. Mike's under the weather.
Yeah.
Thanks all for the hype train,
Fantabulous.
everyone. Thank you.
Fabulous got me.
You're okay, man.
Yeah.
You got it.
So,
You got step
high
away.
stakes. It's high level, high stakes stuff usually when we're talking about extra-planar influence. But yeah, so I would say, Demon Princes, Blood War, Row, all these things are tied together. It's a big overarching meta plot.
Yeah, yeah. You never see I never see demons, devils, and celestials for the most part warring against each other. So, there you go. There's your
These two books are great if you want to dig into the Blood War and the Planescape setting as well.
Okay.
These have tons of cool stuff that describes the what's happening. So third edition was the era for and there's a lot of third-party products that from the D20 glut, so to speak, early 2000s that dives deep into demons and devils and the Blood War and the lower planes and stuff. So if you want to do a deep dive in that era is really your go-to.
I'll say this, and when I said I didn't use much, I've always, I don't know, seen the elemental, even those evil elemental lords and the elementals of and salamanders and whatever creatures you have from. I always saw them as the minor compared to demons and devils. I could use them as much as I wanted, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
so,
they're extra-planar. Yeah,
exactly. That was the in for the extra-planar for us is the elementals. Tapping the elemental planes. Having the elementalist class. I always saw that as, wow, that's a good way to go. Summoning elementals. I mean, basically, you're summoning something from another plane when you're using that. So
And Big Mac has a interesting question here from the Outer Planar Tales 1, Tales of the Outer Planes, OP1, that the Wild Goose, the World Serpent connection. Yeah, there's an interesting, and there's a second, because that one is, I don't know if it's technically set in Greyhawk or not, but it's definitely Greyhawk compatible. But there is another interesting thing when it comes to the World Serpent. Look at the heraldry of in the box set. The I use original heraldry has the World Serpent, the one that circles around and bites its tail. That one is in the original Iusian heraldry, which to me is really, really cool. So that's something that I've tied in and into my campaign and stuff. So there's a second World Serpent kind of analogy or reference that is definitely Greyhawk, and it's kind of cool because that's very much like the Nordic Viking-esque or Asgard World Serpent that was depicted as a snake that bites its own tail. That's have the circumference of the world is it holds the world together, kind of thing. And I think that's the reference from the OP1.
The weird occurrence in Odd Alley short story in the Gore novel, Knight Errant has them finding a portal in Greyhawk City, an extra-planar full of portals. And it's not Sigil. It's probably this one that Mac is talking about. It is the Wild Goose. Whether that is another term for a World Serpent and Greyhawk, it could be. It's just the front name for it. So
Glassjaw's just mentioned my next example.
Yes. Go for it, Mike.
We're ready to move on. So the demiplane of Ravenloft influences Greyhawk in that it takes its worst actors away.
That's a good
one.
Or it captures random heroes.
Doesn't it take the most heroic heroes too? Not only the bad ones?
Just the bad ones.
In there.
Azaelin's the one that comes to mind who has a whole plane. A subplane in Ravenloft.
Yeah.
Now Azaelin, once again, that's a retcon though, right? Azaelin is a one-line word named in Ravenloft 2. Lich, as I showed, and then he gets a whole background story developed on him, and pulled in, and then he is, what was he, like 100 to 200 year, or very early? He had his own realm. He was one
Yeah.
of the three, at the time. But
There's a
Vecna
lot
never
of
got
Great Kingdom history to fill in, so it's
Yeah.
convenient.
exactly.
But that's what happens, meaning we get
Yeah.
refinement and
Yeah.
retcon things in as the game and all its content and its lore evolve
interesting.
over decades. So a lot of it is kind of invented half empty, and then it gets filled with all sorts of stuff afterwards. And the Death Knights and all that is something that is built on and bolted on later too. So which, and some of it fits in perfectly, and some of it needs to be a bit more shoehorning to get in. But and one of the that I think is kind of cool addition to the whole mechanics of the multiverse, so to speak, was the 4th edition manual of the planes, often overlooked. And I think this is some of the best stuff from 4th edition that I think is really cool. A lot of the other stuff I don't use, but there's some aspect to this that I think could fit really well into Greyhawk, especially the Feywild and the Shadowfell. Those planes and planar milieu or biomes or places or planes, so to speak, I think they fit really well into Greyhawk. First of all, you have a lot of shadowy creatures and stuff. Now you can give them a home. They've been around in Greyhawk since the Fine Folio days and Monster Manual 2 and maybe even Monster Manual 1, a few of them. And it's kind of interesting. In here they get a proper treatment, so to speak, and they get a home. And the Sylvan kind of the Fey dimension is cool when you make it into a proper plane or proper dimension. And I tie the Fey and the Shadow together. That's one transitory plane going from light to dark, so to speak. But you can kind of play with these as dimensions or separate planes somewhere or something. But it ties into, and you have whole places that are good, meaning we have the Selene and the Sus Forest. And there I think you have a perfect kind of big gateways that whole environments are influenced by Fae and the Shadow Realm and stuff like that. So you have thematically, you have stuff already built into Greyhawk that fits really well into things like Feywild and the Plane of Shadow from here, Shadowfell. So there's a bunch of stuff like that are bolted on later on in addition in D&D.
Bolted on, I like that term.
Yeah.
Was the takeover of the Lindor Isles by the elves something to do with Feywild worship?
No,
if you want to, I could definitely see it's part of it. Maybe it was old ancient elven territory they took over again or something like that. I don't know, but yeah,
I thought it was done to punish Lynn.
Yeah, exactly. I've dealt with it differently in my campaign, or plan to. I've never been to Lindor Isle, but I have ideas that goes in slightly different direction. I had a wonderful conversation with Uncle Fuss yesterday about that, so that was fun.
I don't have a Book of File Darkness. I have a PDF of it, but I don't have that. So because it's like $150 minimum for that. So
yeah.
Of all the things Sergeant did, the
Moonbeam,
Moonchild, say that drives me freaking crazy. Because it's whatever it is, the Saheen, where they have this. There's no mention of that whatsoever in the original 1st edition. Anywhere that the elves go off somewhere. It drives me up a wall, actually. It's one of the, I just don't like it at all, and I don't use it. But that's okay.
Yeah, Glassjaws, that is a really interesting connection between positive, negative planes and Feywild Shadow. Yeah, it's really cool. And Feywild, Feywild was kind of talked about and stuff, but it was not put into mechanics, I think, until 4th edition. That's when they got proper home in the cosmology of D&D.
Geoff Living Greyhawk did it in 3rd. They started it with
exactly. There were lots of written up third-party material, adventures and stuff like that, but it didn't get a proper write-up in D&D official cosmology until 4th edition, I think. In 3rd edition, they were third-party books that talked about Sylvan stuff and fairy stuff and fae and stuff, but no official D&D stuff, I think, until 4th edition. But 3rd edition, I think these two books are interesting from a planner perspective, but they have a slightly different take. They don't talk much about the planes. These books are heavy on mechanics. If you run a 3rd edition game and you want to kind of make the mechanics of higher planes or lower planes even more spectacular and more different, and you want to add another dimension mechanically into your games, these books are your thing, so to speak, because here you have damage that are different, vile damage that is even worse than the necrotic damage and the evil. Yeah, so you have even worse damage that is harder to heal and stuff like that. So various monsters like demons and summoned things and really evil things and necromancy can do even worse damage that is way, and vice versa. You can have paladins who can summon creatures that can do exalted damage, or I forgot the term. I think it was exalted damage, but damage that comes from the outer planes. It's a bit like 5th edition's radiant damage and necrotic damage, so to speak. So it echoes a little bit of that in 5th edition from these books. And they also, this one comes with a warning sticker that kind of was probably a good sales argument. Yeah, because it talks about things like torture and various nefarious topics that are very much up to how you want to run them, or if you want to run them in your campaign. But these are heavy on mechanics more than others, so to speak. They are mechanic books primarily.
But if you want to make a cultist,
yep. But they're good even for 5th edition and stuff. These are good to take themes from, so to speak. You can take a lot of, I think if you're interested in planner stuff, these and these codexes are books that you should get as PDFs, and you should read them and take inspiration from them, just like the 3rd and the 4th edition Manual of the Planes as well.
I'm going to step back here to the Manual of the Planes and show something here.
Yep.
So one thing I always liked was these encounter tables. And this is for inner planes, which means during the elemental planes and the positive and negative, not the, hell and, the happy hunting grounds and all those. But if you, hey, Calstaff, it was one of the 4 Elven Kingdoms found at the Grails. Oh, yep. Hey, April, good to see you. So, some really cool things that if you notice on here, if you know your, here he comes. Alan Crowey's coming in, everyone. I haven't seen Alan in a while. Throw Alan up
welcome, Alan.
Look at that, Alan Crowey, everyone.
Hello.
Let me go back to here. How are you?
Good.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Here. You too.
We're all going to see Alan at GaryCon, so we're all looking forward to that.
Yep.
It's going to be a great time. So
it will be fun.
Al, we're bouncing all over the place here. So, I know you're a little bit of an expert on this. Why don't you give everyone a little bit? And I know there's a lot of people who probably don't know you that well. You were on Virtual GreyhawkCon's wrap-up show. I think that was the last time you were on. So, tell everyone who you are and what your expertise here is in this discussion.
Sure. So my name's Alan Growey. I go by Growdog when I'm talking Greyhawk stuff or otherwise online. And let's see, planes. So the planes have always been something that fascinated me about D&D in general. And then Greyhawk in particular, I've always thought had some really interesting takes and ways to approach the planes about it. And let's see, my first probably delving into the planes in depth might have been inspired by Rob Kuntz's Maze of Zane adventures.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the first time I DM'd the planes, kind of accepting, Feta Fencer and Q1, So,
well, Feta Fencer is like the prototypical, wow, cool Dragon Magazine adventure where you go to the astral plane and you're fighting Githyank guy, right?
Right. Yeah, I was in Dragon 67.
It's early on. It's real early on. But and we're talking that there's stuff all over the place. You got your demons, you got your devils. Then in later books, you got demodons, you got slods, right? I'm sorry, you got you got 2x4s, you got modrons, you got all sorts of crazy stuff coming out.
The Outer Planes, yeah.
But I always forgot, Alan, about elementals. We always had elementals, and it just and how they got converted.
City of Brass.
City of Brass, yes. I have that right here. I have the.
I was waiting
and the
for
big guy,
Alan.
the big guy. We have to remember him, the Astral Dreadnought, and the Astral Plane is one of these that we tend to
artifact-related influences.
Indeed.
Thank you.
But I was waiting
Wayne.
for Alan.
So Alan.
And then we've got demi-planes, and we've got the fading lands and the plane of shadow and all sorts of other fun things that have transpired over the years. And 3E, I thought, did some really interesting things by changing the planar cosmology a bit too.
Yep. And 4E as well. Yeah,
which
we talked about
I've heard interesting things. Yeah, about
the
that.
Feywild and the Shadowfell, the plane of Shadow and Fey got officially integrated into official D&D cosmology in 4th edition, so to speak, which I think was one of the most interesting bits that I've kept in from 4th edition, the ones that I liked the most. They were talked about in 3rd edition, and a lot of third-party products and stuff. They were mentioned in adventures and stuff, but they were really officially integrated in 4th edition manual of the planes.
Yeah, so that's an area I know very little about and would love to hear some more, because Fey and Shadow, of course, is a really interesting admixture. So
what intrigued me, Alan, about the discussion we had on Discord, a real short one, was you wrote something, or compiling something.
So I've written a few articles about gates and planar architecture and stuff in Noxspell, and I've written a number of spells that help you integrate that into your campaign a little bit more.
Okay.
So one of the things you can't do very much in D&D is really kind of, if you run across a gate, other than kind of hopping in or casting a quick commune or maybe an augury if you're willing to trust it, you can't do much to really investigate whether it's a good idea to go through it or not. So I created some spells to kind of help with that process, and also to kind of give players some more tools to explore the planes and kind of crack open some of the interesting little gems of rules and things about how gates and things like that work.
Very cool. Are they on your site?
They're on my blog. So they were published. They were originally published in Noxspell, and then after Noxspell folded and never came back, I put them up on my blog.
If you can do a link, do a link in chat, that'd be great. Or somewhere that we can pop that up. That would be wonderful. Just to see that, so that everyone can understand what we're talking about there.
No glass jaws. It's never wise to go to another plane.
Yeah, probably, exactly. It's probably
Glass jaws. I've used that. My character Gazumba's one of his favorite things was plane shifting baddies. It's a 5th level spell, so you only have to be.
It's a great attack spell. Send that demon straight to the 7th heavens.
And then we have the ethereal plane too. That is one of the often overlooked one. That is more of a mechanical feature of the game rather than a home of a lot of critters and stuff like that. So
well, the ethereal, right? The ethereal connects all the inner planes, and the astral connects all the outers. Isn't that correct? Right.
Yep.
And
they touch each other.
They touch each other.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Alan, we're talking about like the influence on Greyhawk. Can you give us an example or two of either a published source or something you've done where you have an actual game influence or a storyline influence of something that happens from a plane into Greyhawk?
Oh, sure. So my players actually just returned from the astral plane in my current Castle Greyhawk campaign, and they went there on a mission at the behest of the priesthood and the high priest and priestesses of Celestian in the city of Greyhawk. Nice. And they were going to retrieve a prophecy from an astral repository, and bring it back to the Prime. They didn't quite understand what the mechanism of getting the prophecy and bringing it back was going to be, but they had an acolyte going with them who was going to take charge of the prophecy, and they were guarding the acolyte, and they had to go there. So this was actually a published adventure written by Anthony Huso, who writes really good adventures in general, and he has a particular interest in the planes as well. So it's you can't see with the glare here, you can't see it well, but it's got this beautiful artwork on the cover. And it's
nice.
called, I pronounce it as Llywelyn Fall, but I'm sure that's a terrible hack of the adventure. But it's sort of a mini Tomb of Horrors for characters of level 3 or less, set in the astral plane. So it's got this really interesting set of mechanics about why you have low-level characters coming into a lich's lair, and what brings them there and out. So in my campaign, I adapted the adventure to be sort of this mission for the priests of Celestian. So they spent a while journeying there through the astral plane. Then they adventured in the site and recovered the prophecy and then brought it back. So,
what edition is that?
That's a first edition adventure.
Really?
It's written for first edition in Osric. Yeah, I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up and see here. So let me get the Knock spell. Here's my Knock spell article, the first one. Oh, I'm not signed in.
I will ask that question right now, Mac. I bet you I know the answer, but I will ask that. Gary Holding just said, I didn't know Jesus was a Greyhawk fan. Oh, wait, it's Alan. That's nice, Gary. That is nice. So, the question...
Greyhawk Jesus will soon be a tax-deductible charity.
So, let's see. Alan, did you put that in our Discord? Where'd you put that? In Twitch
I'm
chat?
trying to get logged into Twitch,
okay,
so I
no
can
problem.
put it in there.
No problem.
So...
Big Mac asked a question immediately of you is, your Black Bay Publishing, is Bottle City in Castle Greyhawk or on another plane?
So Bottle City can be both.
Okay.
Really. So Bottle City is one of Rob Kuntz's original Castle Greyhawk levels. It appears it's accessed from the second level of Castle Greyhawk, which just goes to show you how mean and vicious Gary and Rob were as dungeon masters. And then it takes the characters to either another plane or perhaps the city or in and around the Lost City of the Elders. You kind of it's kind of vague,
right?
But
okay.
It's awesome. The Bottle City. And it's got its own little.
I know you ran that for Frontier Greyhawk Con one year.
Yeah, I've run it a few times. I actually got to code DM it with Rob Kuntz at Gen Con in 2007.
Wow,
which was very cool.
That is awesome.
I'm glad you mentioned the Lost City of Elders.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know a whole lot about it per se, but I do know that returning to the Lost City of Elders is a huge motivation of Eli Tomarast in Mark Castle.
That's right. Because that's where he got the book that let him bring
his hands.
And his hands. Yeah, and he got to bring Kirzit.
So I always wondered, what it would be like there.
So Rob has not published a finalized form of the adventure from the Lost City of the Elders, but in his manuscripts, in his El Raja K DVD, which I can find on the shelf somewhere if I need to, so it's a DVD and USB device. But in there, he has the scans of his original manuscripts for the Lost City of the Elders, and he has run the Lost City of the Elders at Gary Con and North Texas, and at some overseas conventions too.
You sold me one of those CDs, so I just don't remember reading it.
Yeah.
So it's in the El Raja Key CD. That's where it is. Oh, I got it.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten it. Nice.
Yeah. Really cool. So there's about I don't know 75, 80 pages of manuscript notes, maps, and stuff in it. And I'm still not logged in, I don't think. to Twitch. Let me look.
What you can do is you can put it into the chat here, and then Anna
Okay.
or Mike, because I'm on a different machine, but can link it right into chat.
Mhm.
So if you want to do that,
Alrighty,
that's fine.
we'll
Yep.
do that. Boom. And then this is Anthony Husso's Adventures.
Yeah, Lomas, I need the DVD. I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't. I have, like I said, I have Dark Druids, and I have this. I have Karen of the Skeleton King. So I do
There's
have.
a link to Alan's blog. Yep.
Awesome.
And here is
thank
the
you on that.
I'll put. Oh sure, and I'll put the El Raja K on there as well.
Thanks, Gary.
And there.
That's
Oops,
funny.
I
King
didn't.
D&D years record. So I have a quick story while Alan's doing that, Gary. So a British blogger came out on Twitter and said, "What's the longest campaign ever?" And of course linked all the Robert Wardall stuff, right? Jose Ortiz came to my defense, which was awesome, and a couple other people, and said no. And so I'm actually going to be interviewed by this. And please note, Ed Greenwood's is longer. Frickin' Dave Arnes's campaign's still going on. But it felt good that someone jumped up there and said, "You're wrong. You're wrong." So there you go. All right, we got that linked up there. There is El Raja Key. Yeah, there's El Raja Key too. And
then-
the other one, Alan, was
was Anthony Husso's Ajuil Fall. So I put a link to all of Anthony's stuff there.
If you guys could put
which
that in there,
includes
that'd be great.
his City of Brass adventure, which is my favorite rendition of the City of Brass.
So that is not. This is Necromancer Games ones. Is this his?
No. So that's Casey Christopherson, who actually lives here, and I think that's his last name. Here in Wichita.
Oh, okay.
So
there are two different ones.
No, there's several. So then there's
okay.
those. Rob has a version of the City of Brass that was published by Kenzer, which was only half of his manuscript. And then Rob's full version is there, and that might be on the El Raja K DVD also, if I remember right. And then there's Anthony Husso's.
We got his site now. So Zelwyn Fall is the one you were showing, Alan, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so that's an adventure. The MacGuffin in the adventure is that this is a lich, and it's his lair in the astral plane. And if you were going there to go fight the lich, it's very difficult in that sense. Obviously, fighting liches is difficult, but the lich constructed his lair using his powerful magic in such a way that only beings other than himself of less than 4th level can enter the lair, which is why it's so interesting.
Oh, wow.
As a kind of a so it's got this interesting set of puzzles. It's got Modrons in there. So I got to use Modrons for the first time in 8 zillion years, and they were not terrible, you know?
Okay. Now I have to get it. Oh my God, I have to use Modrons.
Jay likes modules that he can punish himself with.
Yes. And everybody else online.
Yeah. So it's a fun adventure. So the characters had to get through the adventure challenges inside the lair.
Before they level up.
Yeah. So I had the priests of Celestian basically scan them with True Sight, so they could validate that their auras were not too bright to get into the fall, as we.
That's
we
really cool. That's a great concept. Does Anthony go to any of the cons?
He goes to North Texas occasionally, and I was trying to work him to see if he's going to come back again this year. He's in Texas. He's in Austin, if I remember right. And he is currently running 2 sets of concurrent groups through his equivalent of Castle Greyhawk himself at the moment, awesome. Which is great. And he runs 1E stuff. So
always good. Always good.
Yeah, and he does great stuff. His newest adventure is a set in the abyss, and you're invading one of Orcus's summer palaces, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's not a spider ship, right?
It is not a spider ship.
We're not even gonna, I don't think we'll even go to Q1 tonight. It's one of those, you love it or hate it. adventures. So, all right. That's
So
a
anyway,
lot
so
of
that
great
was a
stuff.
really long, diversive answer
No, it's a
to
great answer,
whatever
though.
random things were you wanting to know about what was going on in my planer game.
That is
So-
because I'm so glad that you shared that with us, because I would have never known about Anthony Husso's work on other planes, or the neat things that you're doing, connecting it into Greyhawk City, which is wonderful. And I didn't even know about the connection to the portals that's in Greyhawk, the Wild Goose. I did not know about that. So I always thought it was just the serpents in that's in Iron Gate. I did not know that there was specifically one in Greyhawk as well. So,
Oh, well, that one's news to me too.
oh yeah, they just found that in which one, Adventures in
Uh,
Anna?
Outer Plains 1,
Outer
OP1.
Plains. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
noted in there.
And it's kind of cool because it ties into the original IUCN heraldry that has the word serpent that bites its tail
yeah.
from the 83 box set. So
That's really
I
cool.
think it's kind of cool because I don't think anyone they probably put it in on IUs because it was cool. I don't think there's much of a backstory to it, because I think that graphics was probably a lot added because what they had, they could scramble together and stuff. So I don't think there's too much back thought to some of the heraldry, but I think it's kind of cool because that gave me ideas for how to use IUs and stuff, that heraldry. So whoever did it, I have to thank them. Yep.
That's
for
great.
doing it. Yep.
All right, so let's round table this and talk about some, because we're doing on influences, some connections to Greyhawk with some outer planar or elemental plane or shadow even plane. And who wants to go first there? Alan's go ahead, Mike.
In chat, Miss
Miss
I
GA.
can't pronounce the name.
Yeah.
Miss Gay
Q1.
mentions Q1, and that brought up a question that I had when I was doing some research: is are other prime material worlds or alternate Earths or whatever? That's not really extra planar per se, is it?
Depends on how you do it. You can have them
Yeah.
other planets out there in the
It's
universe,
extra-
and you can be
extra
physical.
Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite writing of all time is the gates to all the other worlds on that first level, on that the fourth level of the demon web, right? That's the one that sits above all
Yeah,
them.
and so I'm wondering, are those
just
other prime worlds?
prime material?
That's what I've
Or-
usually interpreted.
They're all
Okay.
prime. Yeah, they're alternate prime
Yeah.
material worlds, other ones, and just you can have entire settings in all of them, and
But yeah, Lowell definitely goes in with that bunch of, the demon princes and demon queens that have extraordinary influence on the setting. Just trying to gobble up worlds.
Oh, that's so true, Mike. I must not be plugged in. Give me a second here. I'm doing something. You guys continue. Why isn't the plug going in? My laptop's like going dead.
So Gary has a question for Alan.
Yes, please.
What do we know about Gary's plane of shadow? Does the what was it called, Shadowland or something like that? That he was supposed to make?
So there was a series of planar adventures that TSR was going to do. So Q1 was supposed to be the first of many. And Shadowlands was by Skip Williams, and or maybe it was going to end up being Skip plus Gary or something, but it was his primary work. And then Steve Marsh was going to do a series of adventures called Star Strands. And Steve also helped Gary kind of sort through a lot of the planar architecture that became what we know as the Great Wheel structure and how the astral and ethereal planes work and things like that. And he wrote a lot of I think he like did some interning or worked at TSR over a couple summers or something while he was in law school. And so he also expanded on a lot of that planar material on his own later, and then also in other zines. So he wrote for some APA zines like Lords of Chaos and The Wild Hunt and stuff, and published some other planar material there. But the shadow plane, I think we know the most about from the ads that were in the catalog back in the day describing the adventure. So I had actually pre-ordered that adventure, and I got a canceled order on it from TSR at some point when I was a kid,
Uh-oh.
which of course I didn't save. And
That's
then
proof it was real.
yeah. And then Gary wrote a lot about this Plane of Shadow in his Gord novel, and I think that was in City of Hawks, maybe, or the
Yeah, I
one,
think so. It was
or
the one
yeah,
that came after he left TSR
yeah.
under New Infinities. Yeah.
When he goes with the Max just said when he goes with the Cat Lord, what plane's he on?
He's on the Cat Lord's plane then. So
it's its own demi-plane.
that's
Yeah, he was very fond of demiplanes. I guess that was a way of circumventing the whole big cosmology, and you can just do something little self-contained. You can destroy it, and you can give it whatever properties without screwing up anything else. I think it's smart, and they kept that part of it's now a staple in cosmology. If you're powerful enough, you can just create a demiplane and live there, or yeah.
So one of the things that they did do with that demi-planar structure is that they expanded on it. So Steve and Gary, I have a TSR memo from 1980 that talks to this process. I don't know if I can share a file to chat for you guys to be able to share it, but
if you have a link to it, you can. Yeah.
I don't think I have a link.
If you have a link to it, put it in chat, and then Anna can
put in the Discord.
Or
Discord.
Yeah, I'll do it there. Yeah. Okay. So what it did is it outlines and breaks down sort of the ranking of planes that are really small planes. So you go from a partial plane down to a demi-plane to a semi-plane, and then you've got bigger. You've got a plane, and then you've got a pocket universe, which is bigger. That was all part of the schema they were trying to put together for all these planar modules. So I'll put that in the Discord.
So one of the planar modules that did come out, which really isn't Greyhawk, was Egg of the Phoenix, because you go to the plane of Sepulchre in it, and at the end of that one. So we did that one time, and it was pretty good. It's on my
Never ran that.
Yeah, no.
And Egg of the Phoenix was that one? That was one that was a compilation of the R1 through 4 modules.
Yes, the Phelps modules. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is this something we can share with everybody?
Yeah, Steve, you can share this. Steve has actually posted the memo on his Facebook page and stuff.
Yeah, hopefully people can see it. I post a link here, and please say if you can see this. I think it's public that everybody can see.
Wow, look at that. That is old paper. Steve Marsh.
Then, I'll put a link to Steve's website because he's got.
I just saw Steve Marsh chatting and wishing oh my God, my brain just shut completely off. Oh gosh.
He was wishing the Chiefs good luck.
No, he's been in the hospital a while. Oh my God, wrote Greyhawk Adventures.
Ward.
Jim Ward.
Jim Ward. He's wishing Jim. Yeah, he's just wishing Jim Ward in chat on Facebook because Jim had been in the hospital for like 5 days. So yeah, and Steve was wishing him. Yeah, Jim, thanks.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm getting old, everyone. As you can tell, it's been a long day. Yeah, that's really neat, unbelievable.
Yeah, so I have that actual memo.
Wow.
In my
that is cool.
My various stuff, but then Steve. So Steve's Star Strands material survives, and he's published a lot of it on his website, which I put into the chat also.
Hang on a second.
And then he's taken his sort of planar architecture and such and turned it into a series of stories about the planes and how they came to be. He's run adventures at North Texas that are set in and around the Star Strands and various of the worlds that are attached to it. I don't think Steve has come to Gary. con yet, I don't believe.
Well, we need to get him on.
Um,
We need to get him on a show here. Legends
Oh,
or
yeah, yeah.
Gabbin. We haven't had him on yet, so we should
Yeah, and he loves all the planar stuff. He would love to
Yeah.
do a follow up on all that material.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, probably.
But I think to your question, Mike, all the shadow
Jeremy,
stuff,
thank
I think, is really from Gary's novel is really the best of what we've got for it. Plus some articles on the shades and things like that.
How many shades do you know that are in published source? I think I remember one in the one adventure. What adventure was it? I know there's. Oh man! Once again,
I will throw out right now that Duran Crimea, the Mage of the Veil, wants to become a shade.
Wants to become a shade, right?
I don't remember where I read that.
Yeah,
but that's his.
It's not in Veil the Mage.
Might be, or it might be in Greyhawk Adventures.
One of the two. Yeah. As a way to live forever. It's a cool concept. That was the intriguing, Alan. That was the original intriguing thing of the shade and the plane of shadow. Right off. Was that a monster? Was that a Monster Manual 2 or a Fiend Folio? It was a Monster Manual 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
2. It may have showed. Was that in Showcanth too in the supplement? Because they first appeared in that Showcanth supplement before. I think they were. It was in there.
I don't think they were in that one.
Okay.
No, there was other things that were really cool in there, but I don't think the shade was there. I think it was new.
Okay.
To the.
That was just such a great
Yeah.
concept. I turned one player character into a shade when he performed a evil ritual on himself and didn't even realize it. And yeah, that was.
I had a shade NPC in my high school college game who adventured with characters, and he was a bard. So instead of having druidical powers, he had shadow magic.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love the Shadow Mage. We have a Shadow Mage class, and I love the options that gives to enhancing mostly rogue classes, but you can use it for almost anything. Alan, here's a question that Calstaff asks: what are the inner plane probability lines, the seventh dimension mentioned in the Druid description in Unearthed Arcana? Any idea?
So in some of one of the Gord novels that he published with TSR, where they learn from the sage, I think it's in the first one, Saga of Old City, Gord takes some lessons, and I think he learns a little bit about the structure of how magic works and things, and they talk about like pan probability and other junctures of where planes come together and things like that. So my assumption is we would probably talk to that, or like some of the Hierophant powers that are in the Druid stuff in UA.
Basically, the Hierophants have the ability to hop planes, right? They can basically at will when they get to a certain level, if I recall, they can go in and out of certain planes of existence. Which is guess, okay, cool. All right, Anna, what do you got for as far as like an influence?
I want to say that magic in itself, spell casting, I have it that in itself, meaning when you cast like shadowy spells, then you open connections to it, you cast elemental magic. So all the magic users, they kind of their craft and trade and art by itself, and when they execute spells, that kind of opens up and uses connections to other planes almost universally. Not all spells, but a lot of them do. Meaning we have all the elemental spells, we have all the shadow spells, we have a lot of illusion magic that might be ethereal and stuff, things that makes you invisible, that hide things, that makes you detect certain things and see into it. So I would say probably more than half, or at least around half the spells and that we normally use in campaigns, they have some sort of planar connection one way or the other, because it's more like it's different dimensions and natural forces of nature, so to speak, that you use. If you compare to real world physics, it's like D&D physics is extra-planar to a large degree, just to explain all the stuff that we normally can't do in the real world that you do. So to me, that opens up interesting possibilities that you can use. Meaning, if you use high level magic, is that detectable, traceable? Does it if you go into, I use domain outside of Doraka, start casting wish spells and stuff like that, could that be detected? Is that functioning everywhere, and so on and so forth? And we have these kind of big insertions of outer planars. Think we have the abyssal hole in outside in Steric in the drow modules and stuff like that. There's various other holes and openings and gates and rifts into reality and fabric and stuff. So it's to me it's kind of everywhere part of it when magic is involved, high level faith spirit in various adventures and stuff. It's something that is used as a kind of a standard plot item in a lot of stories and stuff for a lot of good reasons. So as a DM, if you want to homebrew it or stuff, and you want to write it in your version of the rules, because a lot of it is more of as a story plot rather than have real mechanicals, meaning we don't have any rules for if an abyssal rift that are miles across or hundreds of feet, there is no spell for it, meaning how does that function in your campaign, so to speak? Can demon lords open the whole landscape into an abyssal underworld for a day or two or forever, or can evil gods simply start to expropriate land in Greyhawk and start turning it into part of his evil domain, and move it into? We've also heard these stories from other adventures, meaning areas have been moved into other planes, and Vecnab's stolen things down to his domain and to demi-planes and stuff. So it's very often used as a story part of the story and the hook and stuff, as one of these things that don't ask about the rules. This is fun. It's part of the adventure. So it's been a standard way of doing adventures since the birth of D&D. It's supposed to keep some of the mysticism and stuff to it. So that's just, I want to just paint that picture because it's been such a mainstay of so many adventures. It's part of breaking the rules. It's part of a lot of
there's
campaigns.
a lot. The planar stuff always breaks rules, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Even the rules they try to set gets broken.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Mac asked, does anyone know, does the 3 manual of the planes link Earth seas to the elemental plane of water?
Yes, they describe that the elemental plane of water consists of different things like fresh water, salt water, surface water, deep water, and stuff like that. I think it's both a little bit in first edition, but also in the third edition manual of the planes talks about these elemental planes, that meaning the elemental plane of Earth is not complete Earth. There's like pockets of other things in there, and there's like these regions that goes from one to the other. You can think of the transition between the plane of water and the plane of Earth. Is in some ways it might be just a straight, you have water here and then you have the bedrock or the bottom of the ocean, but you can also have like various sediments and it could be kind of a gradual from one to the other and stuff like that. That is talked about both in the first one, but also I think in this one a little bit more elaborate in some ways, because and this one is also, I think, underrated, just like the fourth edition manual of the planes. This one has a whole bunch of Greyhawk deities described for third edition that are described with domains and realms and stuff. So because when this came out, I'm not sure, I think this is actually third edition rather than 3.5, but so Greyhawk was the standard setting, so it's part of it's actually the D&D pantheon. It's not said Greyhawk, it's just standard D&D pantheon, and then Cord and Ilona and a bunch of them are listed here. So this one is kind of a good one in that sense.
So a couple questions.
Yeah.
And Troy asks, what about the negative material plane connection from Return of Tomb of Horrors? Which I've never run. Anyone have any information on that one? That's as negative. Well, guess
yeah, we have the undead, meaning that's where the undead are supposed to get their energy from.
Right, but he's saying it's a true port. It's a true planar gate connection in that one.
Yep.
So
and I think there's one in the Egg of Phoenix too, like that. There's a Cavitus city or something like that in there that orbits the negative material plane, maybe, or something.
It's called Sepulcher, and there's a moon that runs around that plane, and it has the beams go down and do negative energy across and can drain your levels, if I recall.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stuff in that adventure.
Yeah.
Lots
and
of
Alan,
it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Alan, you touched on something interesting. We said cavitus. That's and the city of brass and stuff.
Yep.
One that we often forgot is something that was originally in Manual of the Plains first edition was called the concordant opposition.
Oh yeah.
And then it got a more kind of, I would say, adventure-friendly name, the Outlands in third edition, and then it kept that way in Planescape with Sigil and stuff like that. And that I think is an often overlooked one because that is one of the most adventure-friendly. It's a bit like the Prime material out there where you can go and have a kind of a taste of the various planes, meaning you have the opening to the abyss on one end of this, and then you have the higher planes. You can go and almost visit, like they have these border cities or something that borders the various parts of the outer planes, and then in the middle you have a mountain that raises up, and then Sigil is around the top is this kind of what is it called, a helix or something, where the city Sigil is inside that donut shaped thingy at the top, so to speak. And that one, I think it was I think it was mentioned before, first as the concordant opposition, not detailed at all, and then it was detailed a little bit, I think, in third edition, and then no, it got the detail in Planescape in second edition, and that's when but it was not the whole thing, but it got that wonderful adventure feel, and it's very much set. Planescape is set in the Outlands and Sigil, so to speak. So I think that is an overlooked, really cool in kind of adding to the multiverse or the cosmology of D&D in second edition. So every edition have done something cool for cosmology almost. So they all benefit. Second edition, first edition by establishing it with the first Manual of the Planes, and then second edition with detailing it, flushing it out a little bit more, and Planescape especially, and then third edition kind of summing up, making much more mechanics into it than the earlier edition, and then fourth edition with Shadowfell and Feywild getting officially integrated into the cosmology. I'm not sure what fifth edition have added to it, but
what was the one that Sean Reynolds did? The Undead Lands, or what was that one called? Remember he was talking about the one where everyone's dead?
Well, we have the Ghost Walk.
Walk, yeah.
Yes, yeah. We have two interesting books in third edition, and I'm see if I can find them. I have them both here.
Just taking a look. All right. While Aaron's looking, let's continue with our connection to Extra-planar and Greyhawk. So we don't want to get too low.
I have them here already, so that we're easy to find. We have Ghost Walk. It's one if you want to continue adventuring when you're dead, and this one, it's kind of planar, but it's more like interdimensional. And so I haven't studied. I've read it through when I got it, and then I forgot half of it. But it's kind of interesting. It ties into a lot of things, and it's also mechanics heavy. It's like you can mechanically play on after death, so to speak, on this one. And one other that ties into the plane on negative and stuff is Libris Mortis, that explains in really gruesome detail on how undead works, so to speak. It's the skeletal ones, the corporeal ones, and the willful ones, and meaning what's the difference between a skeleton and a ghoul and stuff like that in gruesome detail. If you want to spec out undeads, even if you don't want to use old mechanics from third edition, this is 3.5, I think. But it's still an awesome book because of a lot of the cool stuff that is in here, so to speak. If you want to have a necromancer with an undead laboratory, or when you create undeads and stuff, this one has a lot of cool inspiration for that.
Speaking of necromancy, I think I'm going to bail. I'm battling Incabulus.
Yeah.
So I'll take whatever notes I have, and I'll do a blog post.
Thanks for
thank you so much for coming on.
Hanging out in with pneumonia. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Alan.
Yep.
Good to see you, Mike.
See you soon.
All right. Get a good night's sleep. Yeah, Mike had a night in the emergency room last night.
Yep.
He's here, so
that was amazing.
His idea on a great topic. All right, Alan. So any some other connections you may think of that are in published source you're doing as well, because we're really got some great stuff I've never heard before, and I love hearing these stories.
So kind of picking up a little bit on some of the stuff Anna was talking to about the architecture of the planes. So that's definitely something that's very interesting to me. And I think it's one of the ways that a DM can really tailor their campaign by changing the planar architecture in different ways and making connections, having nearby alternate prime material worlds, or Barsoom, or whatever that you want to have in the game. So I think that's a really neat aspect, and there are some toolkits for that are out there. So back before Wizards of the Coast became famous for Magic, they published role-playing game supplements, and they had a series of books called the Primal Order, which were intended to be generic sets of books you could use with any role-playing game system, but they were designed around D&D. And they were going to come out with a series of these sets of order books. So there was going to be a religious order set of books, and the economic order and military order and things like that. None of those ever happened. But the primal order books talk to how clerics work, kind of like what Anna, you were describing with the way the undead work in the Liber Mortis book.
Yeah.
And how worship empowers gods, and then how gods can use that power to build planes, build artifacts, maintain temples, and all sorts of interesting things. So the Primal Order book was primarily initially kind of designed by Peter Adkison, and then Wizards of the Coast published them, and they published 3 or 4 books in the series, and then they hit it big with Magic and never got back to doing anything else with them over the years, unfortunately. Jonathan Tweet actually did a Primal Order unpublished campaign where you are new demigods, freshly minted demigods, exploring the planes and doing your theatal blessings and things like that, which I'm hoping one day he'll still publish, because it was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But these Primal Order books lay out not just this kind of divine set of rules and powers for gods and clerics and such, but they also had a book that was a chapter devoted to planes and the multiverse in the main book. And then there was a whole separate book in one of the 4 books called Chessboards, which covered the planes of possibility, as they're called. So I'll put a link into the TPO books here. And Peter has a company now called Hostile Work Environment, which has republished the books in, I think they're only in PDF format. I don't think they're print editions anymore. But they're very, very good for that kind of stuff. So if planes and planar architecture and things excite you, you can check those out as well.
So yeah, it's a shame a lot of that's out of print, right? Or is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, so he's made them available in PDF on drive-through. So that's what I put the link in for.
That's
great
substitute. Yep.
Yeah.
Hostile Work Environment. That's funny.
Yeah. So those are really good. And then the planes book, really, I think the chessboards book gives a lot of ideas about ways that you can customize planes, the ways that you can have different types of connections between planes. So it can be very hard, it could be very gradual, kind of like what you were talking to earlier, Anna. And sort of in some of Michael Moorcock's fiction, there's that idea of sort of the middle march, where you kind of walk between planes because you travel through the mists between them, or you hop on the ship that sails the seas of fate, or whatever.
Yeah, that's
so that stuff's fun.
Yeah.
And then if you take some of those ideas for your campaign, you can come up with kind of rules and mechanics to kind of fill in the gaps about how some of that planar stuff works. So that's part of what inspired some of the stuff I wrote for Noxspell. So as an example, I created a spell called Gate Trace, which lets you basically track where somebody goes when they teleport away. Or another spell that let you peer through to the other side of a gate and such. And then there's some higher level spells I created that'll let you kind of rip open that residual magic and maybe follow whoever
Yep.
just teleported away to get
Mhm.
away because they're down
Yep.
to 6 hit points and they want to live
Mhm.
to fight another day. And you're like,
Mhm.
no, we're going to finish this.
Mhm. I have a Duomer site for that, so that is either a sense you can acquire, and some really powerful beings have it, so you can actually see traces. You see spells being cast, and you can see traces of magic and powerful magic lingers and stuff. And there's also a spell you can cast, and you can use that to follow these kind of arcane anchors and these silver threads when you go through the astral, and you can sense gates and all sorts of stuff.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so I've tried into your spells are really cool because they complement mine in some sense there. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and
And
I think Ed Greenwood actually wrote about Elminster having vision kind of like that in
yeah,
some of his pages from the Mages
yeah.
stories and
I call
such.
it
Yeah,
Arcane Site or Dweomer Site or different
yeah.
versions of it. Yeah. I also want to I posted rules of how how gods come to be and their powers in my campaign. So I post them in both in Twitch chat here, so they are on my website, and I can also post them in chat here so Alan can see too. So that's my thought. I have a refined set of rules for them. They're not complete in this sense. I'm meant more. So I have two types of gods in my campaign. I have ascending gods and emerging gods. So ascending gods is like a creature that aspires to be god, like a saint, someone who's exceptional individual can aspire up and become a god, so to speak, or a demigod first. And there's like 10 tiers of godhood, so to speak, from being an immortal all the way up to a super god at the end, so to speak. And then you have emerging gods. Those are if enough people go and worship a mountain or a river or a volcano or the sun or some feature that gives that emerging feature in the landscape or something, or the rain, whatever, godlike powers eventually, so to speak. So I wanted,
Oh, that's
and
great.
those aren't rules really for the players, but those are rules for me as a DM to figure out what can happen in the campaign due to what happens. Meaning, if there's a million people who go out and worship the sun, they can invent a new sun god or something, or
Right.
something like that. So, and in Greyhawk, I think we have an example of the earth
Dragon.
the earth dragon in Pomarsh. I have him as an emerging god, meaning the volcano shakes the mountain and everybody invents a dragon and they worship. And then if enough people go do it, that mountain can take shape and gain power from that worship, so to speak, or fear too. So I have it, and then I have the different tiers, what different gods can do. They can start recruiting priests and agents to do their bidding and stuff like that. It gives them more and more power. What's the difference between a demigod and a full-blown god and just a little quasi-god deity and stuff? What can they do? So I wanted to have that for my campaign. So I started putting these rules down for how it works in my world, so my version of Greyhawk, so to speak.
I think you'd love the Primal Order stuff. I think it would be
Mhm.
very complementary
I
to
already-
what you were
I'm
There's a
talking
bundle.
about.
I put
yeah,
the bundle
exactly.
in my
I'm
wish
going
list
to,
so I
I'm
can
going
go
to
back
get
to
that
it
bundle
and
too
get it.
and start
Yeah.
reading through. Yes, definitely, because I want to be inspired by others to what they've done. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Glass
Yeah,
Jaws
and
looks
there
like
and
a-
I mentioned those in the biography and at the bibliography at the end of my article that we linked to earlier too.
Cool.
In case folks are looking for that later.
Yep. Awesome. Yep.
I was not aware of the depth of publications out there, especially in older editions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
I did not know that, and it's really cool to see that there was a lot of thought going into. A lot of people really love the connection, connecting those planes out to your campaign setting, and
Yeah.
taking a romp off here and there. And I guess you're right, John. It goes all the way back to the beginning. Just going and fighting, going to like a Yankai fortress on the it was always a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
And
going to Barsoom, or going to Oz, or Melnibone. There's a gate to Melnibone in Castle
Yeah.
Greyhawk.
How about going to what do you call it, with the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat and all, and
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland. So
yeah, and I think it's kind of something that as a DM, if you set your sight on running a continuous campaign, you should start thinking, what role do you want your deities and your other planes and stuff to work? Meaning, how do you want to just have it as a flavor on things, and that happens according to your story? Don't worry about it. You don't need to crunchify it by introducing rules and probabilities and making rules for detail for all of it. But if you want to be a continuous fabric of your campaign, then I think you should start figuring out how these things actually, how you want them to work in your campaign, so the characters can make use of it and your villains can make use of it, and it can create a kind of interesting dynamic, ongoing dynamic. If you want to have a power struggle between the Hell and Abyss playing out across the fabric of the Flannies, or if you want to have how the religions fight each other or oppose each other or something. So that way, then you should start thinking about how do you want it to work, because it's different depending on the stories you want to tell and the style of play you have, meaning how much detail or how you want it to work. But it's something you should start thinking, do I want rules for this? And in case, what kind of rules do I want or need for it?
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's one of the reasons I ended up creating those spells and such, because I wanted a mechanism for the players to be able to explore the planes at lower levels. Everybody thinks of planes being, you have to be 9th, 10th, 20th level to go there. But then you never get a chance to play it in most D&D campaigns. So I thought, if there's some more spells to make them accessible and help you assess risk as a player, you can be a little more willing to go explore and go off the grid if you have a better idea about what you're trying to get into.
Yeah. And you can also have, it doesn't necessarily means that you have to go to other planes as characters. The planes can come to you. You can simply say that the Sus Forest have openings to the Fae or the Shadow or both. So certain times of year, like at certain time at the Sus Forest, if you're there at dusk, then at the last sunset or with the sunsets, then gates open and all sorts of shadowy creatures comes out, and they're out during the night or something, and then they go back in the morning.
Fade in.
Exactly. So you can tie it into like certain phases of the moon when Luna is, or when Selene is full 4 times of the year, gates open into the Feywild, and all sorts of things can happen and stuff. So you can tie it in so the characters know that, okay, in 3 months campaign time, all hell will break loose here, or something wonderful will happen, and you have to be around guarding it, waiting so the area is safe, and so you can start having it, and then all sorts of fake creatures comes in, and you can have a big feast, and you can get magical whatever spells or something if you're there and greeted it or defended the area or the temple or something, or you need to go in and save someone in the Sus Forest before darkness hits, because then all hell breaks loose literally, or so you can create these kind of interplanar things that are tied to various aspects of the world itself too. It's another way of dealing with it.
And then if you ground that in the calendar or some other mechanisms like that, the players may need to go from Greyhawk to the Rift Canyon or to Vargu, or however you say that. And that's not a short journey. So if you're going to be there in 3 months, we got to get cracking.
Yep, exactly. And that will be a way of making sure that you make the story advancing, or you keep them then going, so they don't get distracted on too many side quests too early or something. So right.
Well, that's a great discussion point so far. Really, really in depth tonight, which is fantastic.
And there are plenty of, and one other aspect that we should mention, one of the really good 2nd edition books, Monster Mythology. This one have a lot of the godlings and various other connections that way from others than the normal, meaning the orcs and the goblins and beholders and all sorts of other critters that are planar connections. And this one, I think, it's one of the best books for written for D&D ever. It's fantastic, and it should have a Greyhawk logo on it, because a lot of this stuff is straight usable in Greyhawk. So maybe not all of it, but most of it is tied straight into the Greyhawk campaign.
So I want to ask Alan a question tonight. Wait a minute. Let me ask. Let's ask. Has Troy just asked a question? Has anyone used any of the variant planes and cosmologies? Dreams, mirrors, spirit world, myriad, Doppel or Winding Road?
I've used some of it because I have planes that are planes are either physical, they are or they are psychic, or they are semi-psychic, so to speak. Some of the planes, like elemental planes, the prime material planes, they are physical planes. You can travel there for real, and you get burned and all that, so to speak, and they're real effects. And then you have these kind of semi-real planes, like the ethereal and some of the Fae and some of the other ones. They're semi-real, so to speak. You can travel to them, like I said, you can travel to them both physically, but you can also project yourself there, so to speak. So they are both. And the outer planes have become that way. And then you have the ones that are purely mental planes that you can only go to in your dreams and stuff like that. And that can be, some demi-planes can be connected, and dimension can be, they are mental only. So you have to go fall asleep or cast a spell, and you do it. And so those are my dimensions. And then there's there are various forms of mental planes only, where you have to leave your body behind and be vulnerable at home to go. And there's several of them, and we have that from earlier editions, when in both manual, first edition, second and third, where the outer planes you can travel to both in person, or you can travel to them in by projecting yourself. So that's the way I've dealt with it, and as a way of me to get a lot of openings and still keep a basic idea of how it functions, so to speak.
Freddie McCruger's reality, baby.
Yeah.
Puppets.
Yeah.
So, Alan, I'm running puppets and then some for the fundraiser next weekend. Yeah, it's going to be puppets on steroids, basically. So it's going to take a bad thing and turn it into something fun. So how can people use the Dawn War cosmology of Greyhawk? Could he use or Vecna reboot the Great Wheel? These are questions that I cannot answer.
In my campaign, it will be really difficult, because first of all, you have to kill the other gods and the high beings out there. Secondly, you have to wipe out the memory of these critters, and because they can hide.
Thanks,
really
Wes.
powerful gods can actually hide in the memory of their worshippers and stuff. So if you want to exterminate a really high level god, you have to kill every person that has a memory of that god, and that becomes really, really tricky. So, but theoretically, yes, it will be possible in my campaign, but it will be impossible in practical terms. So that means really powerful gods can be forgotten. That's basically how they die. No one worships them or remembers them. That's how they die.
I
love that, hiding in the memory of the god of their worshippers. That's so
that
awesome,
means,
man.
Meaning if you want to go and kill them, that means that you kill yourself afterwards, because you have the memory of it too. So that's the insurance policy of staying alive. So then that's also the main motivation to recruit priests and worshippers and stuff.
I liked Sam Weiss's point on like Isle of the Ape and stuff. It's such depending on the planar model, like that demi-plane. A lot of demi-planes are accessible by a certain points only, right?
Yeah,
it's not like you can just wander the ethereal or the astral and come upon it. It's got to be a certain point, which is kind of story-driven for the most part, which is neat.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so cool with demi-planes, because you can introduce them. If you want a special plane with special rules that doesn't apply generally, you can invent that demi-plane, and that can break all sorts of rules, because it's only that plane, and you can only reach it from there or through someone or something in certain circumstances. So it's a great way for you to break your own rules. If you have strict rules on all the big planes, invent a demi-plane and make up some cool rules for just that plane to fit the story, and then afterwards you can have the characters, and you can also have the characters be able to exterminate it, blast it, or move in or whatever without it affecting the general cosmology. So it's a way of containing. You can play with rules and powers and all sorts in kind of a little sandbox that doesn't affect the big picture. That's why you should have the idea that demi-planes can break the rules, so to speak, because they don't affect the general cosmology.
Awesome.
And sometimes you want to go to a demi-plane in order to take advantage of those special rules that exist there in order to cast 10th level spells or get special meta magic bonuses for the way
Mhm.
the plane
Yep.
planar constants are set, or things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, you can lure if you lure a creature there, you might be able to read its mind perfectly, or
Yeah.
some other. You want to have
Or
like
maybe you can
some.
only kill it on that
Yeah,
plane,
exactly.
or
Yeah, you can.
whatever. Yeah.
Yep, you can have like weapons have special powers. You can create an almighty weapon that can kill or do whatever or something. You can create something that are completely rules breaking in that environment without letting it out everywhere, so to speak.
Or you can have something crazy like vampires don't die in sunlight.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can. There is no
I saw
sunlight
that
there.
on an
Yeah.
Angel episode, by the way,
Mhm.
everyone.
Yeah.
Where they went to another
Yeah.
plane and he didn't burn in the
Mhm.
sun.
Yeah,
So
I think Ravensloft is an example of his demiplane that breaks a lot of the rules and creates basically a new kind of version of D&D with special rules and stuff. So you can kind of make that for a campaign or an adventure or just a room or something, because demiplane can be very tiny or they can be enormous in scope as needed, so to speak. So they're a fantastic tool to use in campaigns, demiplanes. They are underrated. You can use them for all sorts of cool stuff.
yes, Mike, that Book of Violet Darkness is a lot of money. So let's pick
Yeah.
Alan's brain a little bit while we have him, since we have him
Mhm.
so rarely. So Alan, did you ever use the Book of Violet Darkness and Exalted Deeds at all, or is it because it was third edition you didn't?
We didn't use those in the third edition game I was playing. We were too low level for that stuff. And when I was running, I think they maybe hadn't come out yet. We were kind of playing in the 3.0, and then the sort of the 3.35 is what we called our rules. Some of the early fifth edition 3.5 books rather had come out, and we'd used some of them in the game, but I hadn't used either of those actively. I did look at some of the interesting stuff in both of them, because they do deal with demons and devils and
Right.
stuff like that as good, useful inspiration for
I was curious if
for
you
the
ever ran the
planes.
Porphyry House Horror. If you ever ran that.
No,
No.
I
Okay.
haven't. No.
I can't leave this one up. This picture up too long. Yeah, I gotta get that down. I can leave it
Yeah.
up for about 30 seconds.
Mhm.
By James Jacobs, because it always intrigued me that it's just like a demon convinces you to go to slay, to slay all the Wanti inside, and
Yeah.
one evil is fighting another evil, and you're
Yep.
just a pawn.
Mhm.
So,
But I think you could use them for inspiration in your campaign, and especially inspiration if you want to break certain rules, you want to introduce special cool things in your campaign, magic wise, or stuff like that thematically. Book of Vile Darkness and Exalted Deeds are good, and sometimes it simply what not to do too, because that they are breaking some rules and introducing all sorts of stuff. And that was an era when we talked about it, especially with James Jacobs. It was an era where D&D was really pushing the envelope, so to speak, in that early 2000s. They went and into deep dives into things they'd never done before or after. So in that sense, I think they're a good part of an interesting part of the D&D legacy going forward. So yeah.
but Book of All Darkness, I don't think was Monty Cook. Monty Cook,
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
Monty,
James did a lot of the Demonomicon articles.
Yeah, it's Monty
Cordell.
Cook. It's Monty Cook, and
this was not Eric Mona, no. So, but there was
and the Exalted Deed is James Wyatt, Christopher Perkins, and Darren Drader are the ones listed on the front here.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Al, well, we still have you for a couple more minutes. Let's pick your brain on something else there. Some little tidbit that you want to give out to the audience, or another thing. I mean, you really you throwing out some stuff that's awesome tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
That I did not
sure.
never heard.
There's just so many interesting things you can do with the planes. I mean, you can kind of obviously just let your imagination roam wild, and you can we were talking about destroying the universe earlier and killing all the gods and stuff, and I was thinking while you were talking about some of the stuff you're discussing, and I was like, oh well, that in Amber they start to rewrite the pattern in Roger Zelazny's last couple books of the first series of that, which might destroy the universe, but it doesn't, as it turns out later in the second series. So having all sorts of different mechanisms and ways to kind of play with the planes is it's so much fun.
Good.
And we have from old, we had these kind of found languages that had really, the language of creation is mentioned in various parts of D&D, meaning it's the words that actually create the world and stuff. So you can have put linguistic, you can put riddles and stuff that works in this, which can be
And tie that to power words or
Yep.
symbol spells.
Yep.
Right. Greyhawk's portentous runes.
Yep.
Lots of
That's something I would to put that into my graphical AI generators. I think that could be awesome fun to put one of these spells in there and see what comes out and say, can you please make it the sign or the rune for this or something and see what comes out. That could be a lot of fun.
Neat.
So go ahead,
but you were asking a little bit about plane stuff. So one of the things that had always kind of intrigued me is that there's sort of this sense in particular in the first edition stuff, but in some of the later editions too, they pick up on this, in particular in the Greyhawk 98 products and stuff. But there's this sense that the world is there and there's more to the world than we know about, Horatio. But some people do know about the planes. So they're, the Circle of Eight and all the usual suspects and stuff, but all these different places, some people know about some of them here and there. And there's this sort of, I don't know, I always had this sense that some people kind of keep track of that stuff. And there's Mike was talking about Eli Tomarast earlier in the Moor Castle Adventures and Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure. And there's an X over the city of Roxas on a map in his chambers, which I always made a connection to back to Zane, Rob's wizard, because that's X marks the spot, but Zane was spelled with an X in Rob's original version of it. And that's how it's spelled in Greyhawk. But then when Rob published it later on his own, it was Zayene to kind of give you the alliteration for it. But, Zane is always interested in these other locations, and the Mars are interested in these other locations. And, the Druids and Bardic colleges are interested in these locations and places of power. And, Druids have all these circles, the initiates, the first through the 10th circle, or whatever the number was of them exactly, maybe 12. Where are those circles? Are they actual? Is Tovog Bargu one of those circles? I'm sure I'm butchering the name again, and such. So you can ground all of that planar stuff in your day-to-day campaign setup too, I think, if that's something you want to inject more of into the game.
It's a way to keep things fresh. It's a way to really change things up too, if you want to make some big changes that way. Which is really cool. Of course, the fairies, of course. Planar tuning forks from Dragon 120 were very interesting. Neat, Cal Steph.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good article.
Yep. And I've added another spell. You can put beacons. You can have because I have teleports and stuff are much less precise. So if you want to teleport, you can only teleport to place you can see or place well, so to speak. You can't just like, I want to go to the abyss or I want to go to Grast's temple or his main lair or something like that and get hit. You need to know the place, and a way of getting others in is that you can create a magic item that is a beacon, and you can say, I want to teleport to that beacon, so to speak. And just like you can have a tuning fork that is getting you to that place. But if you say, I want to go in first, and you don't know what the place, but you want to put a beacon there to lead others in, you can create that's as a companion to the tuning fork. Tuning forks do it in one direction, and a planar beacon does it in the other direction. The problem with the planar beacon is anyone with that arcane or Dweomer sight, they can detect it. It radiates magic, so it can be detected that way. But it is a way, if you let your way in and go into the enemy lair, you put the beacon in there, and then others can teleport into that beacon without errors, so to speak. So that's one thing. But of course, things can be shielded and stuff. So I try to create these kind of things that ties into it. So that's one you can borrow that rule if you want to, and
that's
add.
a great idea.
Yeah. So as a companion to the tuning fork, because I love the tuning forks. I thought it was a brilliant idea. So I wanted to have it from the other way too. Yeah.
Almost like, and then if your beacon fails or
Yeah.
it misfires or something, it's
Exactly.
almost like
Yeah.
getting lost in hyperspace in Babylon 5. You're off
Yep.
beacon.
Yep. And you can use magic on it, so to speak. You can suppress it, dispel it, disjunction it, and stuff like that,
Sure.
and so on to kind of, so it becomes a little bit like the electromagnetic warfare, so to speak, but in magic dimension of it, so to speak. And if you're powerful and you have your lair, then you have to go around searching for all this and searching for interventions and stuff like that. And that comes another dimension or another part of this. How can you protect yourself? Meaning, if you're a powerful lord or someone, can people just teleport into your bedroom and murder you at night? Meaning, how do you protect yourself from this? Is there, meaning, what are the possibilities? Can you construct walls that prevent it? Or if you want to imprison a wizard or someone who can do, can you? There's in third edition they have these manacles that were protecting from using magic and stuff like that. But so how
and the
do these
dimensional lock spell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was one spell. So there's a lot of things. Meaning, since you have these dimensions, if you start using them regularly in your campaign, you need to start inventing tools to deal with it in various ways and forms. Because if it is a general part of your world, the critters would have figured out ways to deal with it, so to speak. But if it's just something that is a little bit of a MacGuffin or a little theme now and then, don't worry about it. You don't need to regulate it, put rules to it. But if it becomes a general part of your campaign and your long-term story, you should start thinking about mechanically how you want to deal with it, so to speak.
I think if we go too much, this is just me, too much into the D-hopping, like the myth books from Robert Aspin, right? They had a D-hopper tool, right? Boom, and they're all over the place. If you remember the books, I thought that was like, wow. I think when it gets to that point, it's not Greyhawk anymore.
Exactly, that's the thing. Meaning, you have to set your limits. Yeah.
That's what. Possibly in a game, a whole discussion, a whole point of one, a demi-plane or something, but I think it should be a rare occurrence. I don't think it should be just an everyday thing.
Meaning, make it really difficult to create one or maintain one, so to speak.
Going into Isle of the Ape once in your life is enough. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I never want to go back. I never want to do Egg of the Phoenix ever again after that thing. That thing was so disgusting. Yeah. Oh, by the way, cheat code. The end of that adventure, the plane destroys, self-destructs, and if you're on it, when it does, you die. So there you go. So bad ending. So. Ugh.
You don't want to be there at ground zero.
You don't want to be there when it goes off. But that's one of the great things.
And I think we all, as DMs, at least me, we all had these kind of the Lord of the Ring campaign when it's the characters need to prevent the ending of the world. I advise against campaigns like that, because it's if you have a device that could end the world just by whatever little thing, then that will happen sooner or later, and it gets tedious. So in I set rules, and those are primarily for myself. To destroy the whole world should be so damn difficult that it will be practically impossible. That's why it hasn't happened. That's why the world is still here.
There is a magic item right in Greyhawk Adventures that could.
Yeah, that's why I banned that. So,
right, there's the fire wand, of the Sulis, which redoes the invoke devastation.
Yeah.
So
it's a standard fantasy trope to have since Tolkien that there is something you need to do something in order for the world not to end. It's perfect for books and movies, but I don't like it in my campaigns. So I want to step it down a notch a few. Maybe destroy a country or something like that. But I don't want my campaigns to be a little bit less drastic. But I've run those campaigns too, and they were kind of awesome to begin with and stuff, but after a while it kind of got a foul taste, and I didn't know what the heck am I getting myself into and stuff. So, but in some ways, if you have a group, you want to run 10 adventures and you want to make it epic, then it might be the perfect campaign to run. So it depends on your situation and your play style and what you want, stories you want to tell.
But you definitely want to keep it, if you're running Greyhawk, you want to keep it Greyhawk.
Yeah. But if you want to run a 30 year campaign, to save the world every 3 years or 2 years might be a little bit too much. So yeah, then you want
Absolutely.
to do it differently. So yeah.
So Al, what do you have to say in closing this discussion tonight?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Well, thank
know,
you
one
for
of the
volunteering.
oh, sure. I think, again, there's just so many fictional inspirations and stuff. You're talking about destroying the world, and I was like, well, what if you're the crew who's trying to destroy the world instead of the crew who's trying to save it?
Mm-hmm.
What if the Cthulhu cultists, who, depending on how you run your Greyhawk, may well be there, are working to get the stars right.
Jason was big on Cthulhu Hawk. Jason Zvoda.
Yeah,
He was big on
yeah.
it.
And Cthulhu was a huge presence in the original Greyhawk campaign with Rob and Gary and their stuff. So
Wow.
so there's all sorts of interesting planar escapades you could have that could be Lovecraftian in nature as well. Rising up out of the middle of the Azure Sea, or perhaps the Drawmidge Ocean could be Relay. Maybe it's its own demiplane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So many possibilities out there, and it's just like I said, you can take Greyhawk or whatever direction you want. And that's the great thing about the game. Play whatever edition you want, whatever style you want. VTT, Theater of the Mind, with miniatures, whatever edition and whatever game you want to make up, and that's the wonderful thing about it.
Yeah.
That's why I love Gary Con too, man. There's just so much varied content there. So
Yep.
cannot wait.
Yeah, and I got a whole sheet of ideas just from our chat tonight.
Awesome.
Oh,
so
awesome.
thank you.
Yep. Oh yeah, I
Really
put in
cool.
stuff here too, so it's great. So thank you. Yep.
All right, why don't we do some shout outs here, see what's going on. So Alan, what's going on with you? What can you tell us coming up?
So I'm in the process of finishing my GaryCon adventure. I'm going to be running one of Gary's unpublished Castle Greyhawk levels at the convention.
Nice.
And it's a level I have the map for. I don't have a key, so I've been making up a key for it.
Wow.
And I'm adding some interesting planar twists to it, as the case may be, as a matter of fact.
Oh, awesome. Really cool.
So that's been a lot of fun.
What's the name of it?
Well, I'm calling it the chessboard level, since it's got a chessboard room feature on it.
Cool.
And I don't know anything about the original level at all. So I've not been able to wheedle any information out from anybody who knows anything about it. So we'll play on Gary's map, and we'll play it with my crazed additions to it. So that's been occupying me along with the usual game and everything else. So.
What night is your normal game? When do you normally play?
We play on I play in a Greyhawk game run by Bill Sylvia on Monday nights, and I'm running my Castle Greyhawk game on alternate Saturday nights.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, thanks. Really appreciate you coming on tonight. For this great discussion here. It was Mike's idea when you said "ahem" in chat. I'm like, in Discord, like, cool. That's awesome. So we had some really wonderful discussion. We're doing two. We hit the proper hype train level. We're doing 2 of the giveaways of the classic D&D reprints here, everyone. So sit tight for that, and then we're gonna raid into the Mandy. She got a brand new show, brand new game going on. We'll raid into her. So please sit tight so we get over 100 going into that. Anna, what we got going on?
I just posted the other day to my patrons alternate neural heraldry, because we had a discussion about the LG ones had so many godly symbols and stuff. So I made just the background symbols and stuff for neural. So if you can catch them, they will be available to everybody in like a week or so. And they were a way of and because my counter argument was simple, say, well, if get rid of the Palor and the other godly symbols, and just say that the background heraldry, and it makes sense. I think I will go with them for my campaign. So that came out. Otherwise, I'm knee deep or neck deep in photoshopping Altamira and my Shieldlands areas and stuff, so I can have something to present and talk about at GaryCon. So it's that That way it will be much less published currently. So I'm working really hard to have something to show, maybe something to print and stuff like that for GaryCon. So that is, so there will be very little published now in February and March, I think much less than usual, but it will be much more, so I can, and there will be a glut during GaryCon and after GaryCon on my blogs and patrons and stuff. So expect less for like a month now, because I need to work up so we have stuff to show and so on and so forth. But my patrons will get it as it will come out, so to speak. Some of it before GaryCon, some of it during GaryCon, and everybody will get it after GaryCon, a lot of the stuff. So yeah, and also a template to my top patrons. I published a template so that you can do the real heraldry, so with the shield texture in the background and all the layering done with the short instruction and stuff too. So that's for my top patrons. You can grab that Photoshop file. So if you want to make your own versions of heraldry and stuff, instructions how to do it. So yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome.
And there will be a
great.
mapping live stream. It was
Friday?
opposite work on Friday. Yeah, game maybe on Sunday, but since it's our home game when we stream it, so I don't want to advertise it because it's kind of a hit and miss if it actually happens or not, so to speak. So yeah, so it's not an orderly show, so to speak. It's just our home game that we stream when we have it. So yeah, so we'll see if that comes on.
So real quick, Diamond badges are already open, but there's only 12 of those schmoes, right? So, Platinum badge choices go up this weekend. So just so everyone's aware, I am running I'm DMing twice. It's open. And more of these tickets will open up as we go. A Delve into the Lord's Tomb, right in Greyhawk City, Thursday, 9 a.m. That's Central. And then Investigations of the Low Road. There you go, Rich, if you're on. 9 a.m. Friday, 9 a.m. Central. Both have open. We'll have plenty of open tickets. Our seminars, Legends and Lore, the show that we do here. It'll be Anna, myself, Mike, and we'll see if we have any other guests in. That's on Thursday, and that's at what's 12? 3 p.m. 3 p.m. The Fantasy Mapping Show live Friday at 4 p.m. Friday at 1 p.m. This is going to be Friday's a busy day for me. We're going to have Anna and I in the Chop House are going to have with Troller Games. Greyhawk comes to Aired as we talk about that project with the Kickstarter going on for the Free City of Altamira, which will that'll be a fun one. And that's in the Chop House. Aren't we special? And the last thing that's not on here amongst all the other shows is the Ed Greenwood game, Saturday 9 a.m. It's in a special room, and it's Anna, Ed Greenwood, Eric Mengi, Andrew Valuskasis, and Bill Meinhardt is playing in that game. So
Bill's a great player. I don't know if you played with him before.
I have not, but he's
fun.
He's going to be bringing a lot of his terrain there, so I don't have to haul it from jerseys. He's really helping out that. I'm looking forward to. He needs to get me. He's playing a Fighter Mage Thief. Triple class, so we'll fit perfectly in because Tony Winslow Bro won't be there, and she has a fighter mage, so it'll be a simple swap for the 2-drink minimum group. All right, let's keep on rolling here and see. Tomorrow night we continue Hiltless Swords Adventure Group 988. We're getting close to that 1,000th adventure. Finally, after 43 years. Nightmare of the Aberrals, that's tomorrow night. Gamescape 3D giveaway tomorrow night. No day drinking in the Chop House. So you never know. I may have to, Curtis. Next Wednesday is a Living Greyhawk one for Legends and Lore. Living Greyhawk Grand March. That is Wednesday. All right. And we'll have the Grand March triads on. Casey will be joining us. That's next Wednesday. But there is no Gabbin on Sunday night because of the Super Bowl. Monday night, we start Legends next week is the 5th annual Greyhawk Mega Stream fundraiser. Goals to surpass $20,540 that we raised last year. There's all the channels being involved, and then here are all the sponsors. Look at these. Look at how many sponsors we got this year. Larry Elmore, Gaxworks, Cape Geek, Art Gamescape, Amico, Troll Lord, Reaper, Prayers and Rifts. It just goes on and on and on. We got great, unbelievable stuff. We'll go over all the giveaways on Monday night. Here's the Prelude show. All the guests that are already confirmed for being here. We got a lot of guests on that Monday night show. It's from 7 to 9, Anna, on that Monday. I am taking my Thursday game next week and doing a kickoff event. So instead of it starting Friday morning, we're going to start it Thursday night. So we're going to start the fundraiser Thursday night. It's called Revenge. All I'll say is it's going to reminisce back to the first fundraiser.
Oh.
that we did, where we raised $1,000, and that's tied in, and that's what the revenge is about. This is Alan, open level characters on this. They're allowed to play anyone in my campaign that they have. Walt's playing a 16th level Cavalier. Tim's playing an 18th level Halfling Thief. It's gonna be a super
gonna rock.
Yes, that. But better is the group for puppets and then some, right? And that's my main event Friday night. Ed Greenwood, Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, Stephen Chenault, Darling, and Bones in that group, and hopefully we raise a boatload of money over these 3.5, 4 days. Looking forward to it. Please donate if you can. You can donate right now. It is open. A Tiltify link. You just click down there on the Legends banner, and it takes you right to the fundraiser page. And something now it says something went wrong. That's great. I just clicked on it on my laptop. All right. Well, we already have some money in there. Thank you so very much. But that's what's going on in my world. We got a lot this next weekend. Is going to be a busy one, but it's going to be well worth it. I think the community is very, very generous. All right, let's do the giveaways, and then we'll raid and get out of here. Last call, and for the sign-ups here, and let me close this out. I'll close out in 10 seconds. We'll do them, and then we'll get everyone on their way. Thank you all for a wonderful, wonderful show tonight. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Mike, for the idea and hanging in there, being so ill.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. Yeah, he's not doing that great, but he hung in there, which was
Definitely.
He was looking better than I thought he was going to be. So
yeah,
that was good.
absolutely. All right, let me go to giveaways. Here we go. Closing this out. Let's see who wins. All right, and you're in. You got in. All right, winner. Bane TBC. Second winner.
Okay.
True
Cool.
Malloy. Wow. All right, we got some
Yep.
new ones in there. I need your full names and addresses. Bane, I think you just you got a $25 off a little while ago. That's great. But I'll need your name and address here, and then we'll talk. I'm assuming both of you are fairly new to the community, so I'm going to send you some recommendations of old classic adventures if you don't mind. You each get 2. Some great stuff, if that's okay. All right. Thank you all. Alan, got to come on more, man.
Yes, definitely.
Always happy to.
Oh, that was
Yep,
great.
it
That
was
was
awesome
a wonderful. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Bane. Put it. Whisper it to me. Full name and address. And same thing with True Malay. Please do that as well. Let's raid into the Mandy. We'll hit her up almost doubling. She's got 50 on now, which is great. So we go in with another 100. It's going to be awesome for her on a brand new show. And Mandy's part of the Slav Squad. So let's give her some love here tonight. Anna, Mike, Alan, thanks a lot. We'll see you all tomorrow night, 7:30.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. No streams for me this weekend. It's all going to be partying for a Super Bowl, right? Need more Gridlock. I agree, Kel.
Go
Steph, 100%.
Eagles.
Yes. Yes, because you are a local boy too. All right, what am I doing? Let me hit a. Nope, I better not hit a wrong button here. No wrong buttons. Raid. Click. All right, we're up to over 80. 84.
Yep.
Awesome. 5,
84.
4, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow night.
86. That's a
good.
number.
That's great.
Yep.
Should be very happy about that.
Yep. That's a great number. Remember we were down in the 20s, 25, 30 maybe on Legend lore. Now we're up towards closer to 100 often. Yeah.
It went in with 86.
Yep. 86. Yep. That's great.
So close this out here. Get this over.